Okay, welcome. Lovely to be with you all. Volker, Rochelle, Jeff, Patrick, Malcolm, God, Frank, Chris, Mark, hello, G Matos, and Nayan. So before we take any questions, let's just take a moment to sit comfortably and welcome our experience, welcome ourselves, whichever way things are appearing to us. It's a sort of relaxation. Is sort of allowing. In a way, everything is already allowed. It's simply we are present without any effort. Presence is that which we truly are, that which is our reality, already is. It is that which we refer to as awareness or consciousness. Somehow we recognize that that which is real is the reality which perceives, the reality which is and perceives. The reality of consciousness, which has no name, no gender. Bodies have different shapes and different forms. They appear to us. Perceptions appear to us and sensations appear to us. But that which we are does not appear. You know yourself as I. This I is awareness, consciousness. The same I across time and space. There is an understanding the understanding that I does not refer to a body or a mind, but that I refers to awareness, consciousness. So that this understanding liberates you from the belief that you are a person, from the belief that you are a human form. There is a liberating understanding that I, in this moment and every moment, is not what you imagine or what you feel yourself to be. The storyline about you, your family, your past, your relationships, your future, that this is script. There are images on the screen, feelings and sensations. There are images on the screen. You are not any particular image or any bundle of images which appear and disappear to you. But you are not a form which appears and disappears. So in this moment, the reality which is that I am, this I is that which knows it is, which knows itself, not as a mother or a father, a son or a daughter. It knows itself as the self, as reality. So that this understanding is your understanding. It's not something that somebody is convincing you of. It is your understanding that I is awareness, I is consciousness. Experiential, it is your experience that I is awareness. And that this awareness is neither male nor female. It is your direct experience that this I has no size, no shape, no color, no gender. And yet it's undeniable. So that you establish yourself in that understanding, because this understanding is yours. It's not a hearsay understanding. It's yours. And because this understanding is yours whenever you assume yourself to be a man, a woman, a person that exists in time and space, then you're exerting your freedom to choose this belief. So you may choose to believe that you're a mother, a wife, a husband. But the understanding that You are this aware presence right now. That's your understanding. You have to make it yours, to take a close look at what is this reality right now. Come to clarity that this reality is neither male nor female, neither here nor there. Yet it is beyond any doubt. So you can live your life from this understanding. The understanding that you are this boundless, formless reality. And that there is one reality, not two. To look deeply, to come to the understanding that there is one reality, and that this reality is formless, colorless, shapeless. Thus, your reality and my reality are that same reality. And the reality of the world, the reality of the universe is that same reality. And that the reality of all minds is that same reality. So that everything that's unfolding for you right now is unfolding within that reality. In other words, it's that one reality that's taken on the form of this perception, or taken on the form of this sensation, out of its freedom and creative potential. You are not an object of your imagination. You are not an object of your perception. Thoughts and sensations are like passing clouds. Okay, so if you have any questions, anything that you would like to discuss, please make sure you unmute yourself, and you're welcome to turn on your video, and we can discuss whatever question you may have. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Magdi. Yeah, I have a question, or maybe just an observation, and I'm just curious your reflections on it. In the past, we had spoken, and I remember you referring to, I think this was out of my attempts to, I don't know if experience is the right word, but be able to look at my experience without objects. And we were talking about deep sleep, dreamless sleep. And you also referred to looking at the space between thoughts. And so I've done that, and I have this challenge with that because in my observation, I'm not finding any gap between them. It seems that only the volume goes really, really far down.
Yes. Well, if there are no gaps between two thoughts, then you'll just be experiencing one thought, right?
Yeah, so it seems like the difference in thought seems to just be a conceptual difference, but there seems to always be this flow.
Well, if there is thought A, and then between thought A and thought B, there is another conceptual thought, let's call it thought C, and then thought B, the second thought follows, then there should be a straight connection between thought A, the conceptual bridge between thought A and thought B, and thought B. So there would be therefore thought, meaning concept, then conceptual bridge, and another thought. So it would come back to one thought. Even if you say there's a conceptual bridge between thought A and thought B, you're squeezing in a thought there between thought A and thought B. Therefore, thought A, the conceptual bridge, and thought B should be one thought. But it's not our experience that we have one thought.
Well, I think that's what I'm asking you about, because it does seem, like right now I see an airplane, and now I just saw a cloud in my mind as I'm speaking.
Yes.
Now, conceptually, those were two different things, and there must be a line.
Yes.
Right. But maybe that's the answer. But it just seemed I had this really hard time finding the discreteness, because I'm looking similarly to the edge of my awareness when that's the prompt, like, where do I end? I don't find that, and I'm not finding, it seems the closer I look, the more vague that delineation between these things get. That's why I'm wondering if it's just a conceptual, and maybe that's not important. Maybe all of this is just conceptual fodder, but it feels important in my experience. I guess what I want to say is, it does seem like this is all one thought.
Right. That is because you're conceptualizing consciousness. In other words, you're equating consciousness with thought. So consider that consciousness is not a thought, it's a reality of the thought, the reality within which the thought appears. So you cannot conceptualize consciousness, because if you conceptualize consciousness, then consciousness is just another thought or a phenomenal experience.
That's clear. So my question then is that what that prompt is helping me? Is that the point of that prompt, is to help me to see that?
Yes, that the hearing right now,
Mhm.
which is a vibration of sort, is arising within the silence. In other words, the silence or the stillness, let's say, is vibrating, and the vibration of the stillness is a sound. Now, the sound, you can perceive the sound, you can perceive the decibel of the sound, the rhythm of the sound, the volume of the sound. But you cannot perceive phenomenally the stillness that out of which the sound arises, right? Because there is no instrument, there is no stillness instrument, more stillness, less stillness. There isn't like a scope, a measuring instrument for stillness. So the stillness or the consciousness is not a concept. It is the reality which is, and the reality which perceives. There is a reality to your experience right now. The sound that you may hear in this conversation that we may be having may be a hallucinogenic experience. So it may be totally garbled, and somehow hallucinogenically it takes on the form of this conversation, but it could be just purely garbled gibberish. But although this conversation may be hallucinogenic gibberish, garbled sounds, there is a reality that perceives. That reality which perceives is not a form. It's not a form does not perceive another form. A thought does not perceive a thought. A sensation does not perceive a thought. A perception does not perceive a sensation. There is a reality which perceives, even though this may be a hallucinogenic experience or some sort of, hypnotic state. So when you consider the reality of your experience, you come to, well, there is one reality, which is whatever it is that perceives, whatever it is that is and perceives. We call it consciousness, awareness, being, presence. So that is your direct experience. You have a direct experience of reality, and you have an indirect experience, which is the gibberish, the sounds, what we refer to as mind, perceptions, sensations, thoughts, coherent or incoherent. Now, then you say, well, there is a continuity to my experience. When we take a look at the fact that thought A is different from thought B, therefore there must be some discontinuity between thought A and thought B. It defies your experience. Your experience is that it's continuous. But you're confusing the continuity of awareness, of consciousness, the continuity of reality. In a way, it's a misnomer to speak of a continuity of reality, but in a relative sense, say, okay, continuity of reality, but it's not continuity, it's eternity. In reality, it's not in time where it has a beginning and an ending. It's not a continuous process, it's an eternal process. So the mind, which is basically trained to perceive and discern between perceptual thoughts, sensations, nuances, feelings, etc., says, well, wait a minute, there is a continuity. And this continuity is phenomenal. Why? Because the mind is phenomenal. Only operates within the realm of phenomenology. So he says, well, there must be a continuity, and it must be the continuity of thought. So this gap is an imaginary gap. In fact, there is no gap. It is just all one thought, which of course defines logic. But from the perspective of consciousness, the continuity is the eternity of the reality, eternity of reality, that which is and cannot not be. whatever it is, in our experience right now, there is a reality, there is something which is, it's not a thing like an object thing, but it is isness, beingness. And there is no possibility for non-being. Being is, non-being is not. So it's absolute. In a way, there is an absolute aspect of our experience, which is being. So when you take a look at your experience, you have to discern between that which appears and the reality of that which appears. Because that which appears could be a hallucinogenic experience, or could be a dream, like in your night dream. I mean, there are infinite appearances, but upon waking up, none of these experiences was real. The $1 million that you won at the lottery in your night dream isn't in your bank account when you wake up. So it gives you a hint that when you contemplate your experience, you have to discriminate, you have to have viveka, the discrimination between that which is appearing to you and it's the reality of your experience in this moment. So we say the reality of your experience is non-phenomenal, which defies the standard cultural belief that reality is phenomenal. Reality is the mountains and the trees and the rivers are real, the mountains are real. So it goes against our cultural conditioning again. When we say reality is not phenomenal, it goes against how we are conditioned to perceive, conditioned to perceive reality as phenomenal. So if thought A is real, thought A is real, thought B is real, thought C is real. And the gap between thought A and thought B, that there has to be something there. So we fill it with a concept. We say, okay, well, there is a concept in there called whatever, consciousness. Because then a concept is phenomenal. So it's really important to be clear that when we're speaking about consciousness, we're not speaking about some concept. We're speaking about the reality of our experience. So the continuity that we experience is not the continuity of mind. Mind is discontinuous. That which is not discontinuous is the reality of mind, the reality of consciousness. Any questions?
Hey, Maggie, I got a question.
Hi, Frank.
Hey, how you doing? Okay, so yeah, along the same lines that you and Chris were talking about, I've been wondering about this for a while, and it has to do with, well, two things basically. One is the idea of there being a subtle body as opposed to a physical body. And then the second thing is images, because you and Chris were talking about images. And I often wonder if images ever come up even without a physical body. So I just want to leave it there.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the physical body, the physical body in a way, there's images of the physical body. That's somehow has a certain shape, and a certain contour, and is defined by the skin. Outside of the skin is not the body, and inside the skin is the body. There is this sort of image. Is also the feeling of a body, sort of some sort of sense that there is a physical body, and the physical body is what I feel. I feel this body. I sense this body. So when you look at the image of the body as this contour, this shape, obviously the instrument with which we perceive the body is an important factor in how we perceive the body. When you look at the body with an electronic microscope, you don't see the contour of the body in the same way as if you look, for example, with the naked eye. Or if you look with the X-ray instrument at the body, you will find a different contour, a different shape. So the instrument of perception is an important factor in how we perceive the body. So because of our scientific progress, we have an understanding that the body, in fact, is an interactive field, interacting with its surrounding, atoms and molecules and gamma rays and gravitational forces. There are all sorts of interactions happening at the quote unquote physical level of the body, that we can discern using certain particular equipment, different equipment, so that the definition of the body via the image that we have is a leeway there. It's not as black and white as we used to think about the body being just a certain contour. And of course, like the interaction of the body with the universe, with the cosmos, with gravity, so that it is an ongoing interplay of fields of activity. And then there is how we perceive the body, at the feeling level. We feel that the body is somehow fixed, via the feelings. We feel that it's some sort of fixed body. But our feelings, our bodily feelings, are constantly changing. How you felt at 4 o'clock in this morning, or at 6 a.m., or at breakfast time. They're constantly changing. But there is an ongoing assumption that there is something fixed, some fixed body, as a sort of a belief/feeling. Somehow we feel that there's still something fixed, which is my body. And that's the impression from the mind, because the mind operates in a discrete amount of time. If you change the time of the mind from when the body was 12 years old, and you compare that to the body being 40 years old, you will find a huge difference. But you cannot discern the difference right now, because the mind operates in minute periods of time, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes. So you have to stretch your mind a little bit. Say, wait a minute, this body that I was feeling that I am when I was 10 years old, or 2 years old, or 1 year old, and 40-year-old, or 50-year-old, is a very different thing. So, which brings us to the belief that there is some physical reality, which we refer to as the body. Okay. So we're open to it. We say, okay, there is a physical reality which we call the body. And this physical reality is interconnected with all other physical realities, because there's one physical reality, one grandiose physical reality. So yes, the physical reality of the body and the physical reality of galaxies in infinite space are interconnected. They're interconnected in some mysterious way, interconnected in some sort of cosmic dance, whatever, which defies the capacity of the mind to really put a formula that can summarize all of it. So then that brings us to, okay, well, if there is a reality to the body, which we do not deny, what is this reality? It has to be the changeless quality, the changeless aspect of the body. When you look at the changeless aspect of the body, you find there is only one changeless aspect, which is consciousness, awareness, whatever, presence, beingness. So then you say, okay, well, I see it now. The reality of the body is the reality of consciousness. And the body obviously morphs, changes. But because the reality of the body is the changeless reality of consciousness, therefore this change of the body is actually the changelessness of consciousness. So it's just like consciousness, which is changeless, is appearing to change. So, well, how could appearance of change arise out of the changelessness? But you look at your night dreams. In your night dreams, you're not doing anything, you're not going anywhere, and yet you may travel to many different lands and make all sorts of new friends. And this is the creative aspect of being, of consciousness. We know it experientially, not just in our night dreams, but we know it even in our waking state right now. In our waking state right now, we're experiencing all sorts of experiences. But these experiences, they're nothing else but this same reality, this one reality, which is changeless, which is not moving. And yet it is appearing as this conversation out of its infinite creativity. So it brings us to, like, well, what is the true body? What is the subtle body? We say of the subtle body. The subtle body is the body of sensation. So when you are sensing the sunshine on your skin, you are sensing the solar rays that have traveled, I don't know what distance, a great distance, and you're experiencing the sun, your body, and the sun at that moment are one in the experience of the sunshine, this feeling of the sunshine on the skin. We are experiencing at the sensory level, we're experiencing the universe. And when we breathe, we are breathing. We are not breathing little bags of air, that are in our kitchen or in our living room. We are breathing the universe. And our breath and the cosmic rays and cosmic rays and our breath, there isn't like a line between them. It says, oh, okay, we start breathing that, but we don't breathe this. So it's all. So in a way, when you take a look at, when you examine the sensory realm of the body, you find that in fact, the body and the cosmos, the body of the universe and your body are not like two bodies. There isn't like a body of the universe out there and then your body, with the skin starts with the skin, blah, blah, blah. It's actually an interactive field of of field of interaction. So that helps us to relax our notion about a fixed solid body. It opens the possibility for our body and the body of the universe to be one interactive field. What was the second part of your question, Frank? I forgot.
Yeah, Maggie, I mean, it was, well, it was the subtle body, which you answered pretty much. I guess I'm wondering about the role of images in our lives, because I often want, like when I do some meditation, I sometimes want to get rid of the images, but then I realize that I am the awareness of the images as much as I am the awareness of the body, what I call the physical body, which is, and that's the other question I had too, is because there is no such thing as materiality. It's just what we call it, because it's all consciousness, right? Yes. So is the body an actual image? Is it just another image? So there are the images. When you close your eyes, you have an image. So I have an image of my body when I close my eyes, and then I have the body when I look at it with my eyes. Is that another image? Is that just another image? What would you say?
You know, there is the notion that our experience is just images or mind, that there is the reality of our experience is mind, images. And there is another theory that says that the reality of our experience is physical. In other words, there is a mechanical apparatus called the brain that generates thoughts and images. That there is a physical mechanism, okay, for example, called the brain or the world, and it generates mind. And these two hypotheses, they argue. One says the reality of the world is the mind, and the other one says the reality of the mind is the world, is a body-mind reality, a body reality, physical reality. But in fact, we know experientially that there is the reality of consciousness. We know experientially that right now there is something rather than nothing that perceives, that something rather than nothing knows it is and knows it perceives. That in this moment there is undeniably awareness, consciousness. That irrespective of what is appearing or not appearing, it is always consciousness, whether it's the sound of the bird, the sound of traffic, the sound of rock and roll band, is awareness, is consciousness. So
sorry. I was just going to ask. So when these questions come up in the mind about, it all goes back to awareness. So basically, anything that goes on, as far as it could be an image, it could be what I think is matter, it could be an image somewhere, or it's just the fact that I am the awareness of all of that, no matter what it is really what it comes down to, right? Is that?
Yes. So Francis often talks about, okay, you don't need to make a choice between whether it's the mind that is real, meaning thoughts and images, or whether it is the world that is real. What matters is to understand that there is one reality, and that's the reality of consciousness. So both the mind is real and the world is real as consciousness.
So these questions that come up, like I was watching this YouTube video, which is probably fake, but they show like a guy getting killed in a motorcycle accident, and they show an actual body coming out of him, like almost like a ghostly type of thing, which is probably fake. But I wonder, but I was reading the comments, and they were all like, "This is real. This is real." And I thought, so of course, the mind gets going and asking all these questions about it, and it makes me wonder, like, if this happens at, when we die, is there a subtle body that's sort of like, I don't know. And then it came to me, none of this really matters, because the fact is that I am the awareness of, even if that were to happen, I'm the awareness of that, and I'm awareness of the body and the subtle body, whatever. So, I mean, how important is this to even ask about? Probably not too important, right?
Well, I mean, if something arises for you and it draws your attention and your interest, you can take a look at it, and you can come to your own conclusion about it in terms of how important it is to you and how to address this question. Now, I would say, in terms of the body is constantly changing, constantly morphing, right? It doesn't appear to be, but if you take an electronic microscope and take a look at the body, you will see that it's constantly morphing, constantly changing, right? Constantly there are cells, dying and new cells being born. So when there is a motorcycle accident and the brain is crushed, it is one more transformation at the level of the body-mind. Instead of the 50 billion cells dying over a period of 6 months, they just died over a period of a second. What does it have to do with consciousness? What is it that transmigrates from one body to another body? I mean, there are all sorts of religions that are saying the soul transmigrates from here to there and so on, and they define the soul as being you or some aspect of reality that transmigrates into another. That's just hokey pokey. It's hokey pokey stuff. Because we don't do hokey pokey stuff here. We don't buy into notions and beliefs about a personal soul that transmigrates, from body to body. That's just some kind of story, it's a belief. You assuming you're starting with the statement, there is a personal soul. You're starting with that assumption. But when you look for a personal soul, when you take a look, you only find there is perception, sensations, images, and there is consciousness, the reality that perceives. Now, the reality that perceives, you don't find it to be contained. It's not contained inside the brain, or it's not contained behind the eyes. That's just a belief. So you do find consciousness, but you don't find a personal consciousness. In other words, you don't find a limited consciousness that belongs to the body or that belongs to the mind. You find the body as appearing within consciousness as an image or as a sensation, right? But you don't find consciousness belonging to, arising out of a thought or arising out of a sensation. So that notion that there is a personal soul or a personal consciousness has no evidence to support it. So therefore, it's a belief. It's a religion. And if you buy into the religion, then you have a smorgasbord of religions to to choose from. I mean, take your pick. It's play the game you want to play. But that's not what we do here. We don't buy into hokey pokey religious stuff about transmigration of souls and angels, taking you to heaven and sitting in purgatory. I don't know, all these things. This is just a religion. This is a religious beliefs.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie. It's good stuff. Yeah, I agree with you as far as my understanding goes. Yeah, it brings me peace just to know that all I'm going to know is that I am the awareness of whatever I experience, whether it's thinking I see a ghost or I see whatever or I see a lake or a tree or I imagine something. I'm just aware of that.
Yes,
I'm the awareness of that.
Absolutely, and this awareness is borderless.
Yeah,
and it's completely open. There is no dimmer. There is no dimmer to it. And there is no on and off switch.
Yeah.
It's impersonal. It's the awareness of the universe.
Yeah. I'm getting that more and more. So thank you so much, Maggie.
All right, Frank.
You're the best. Okay.
Thank you. Any questions?
Hi, Magdi. It's Chris again. I don't want to take up. I want to leave space for other questions, but I did want to say, because this just came very clear to me when you were speaking about the changefulness versus the changelessness, this is what I've been trying to articulate, is it's shocking to me that everything phenomenally is fresh every second.
Yes.
And that just hit me as like, oh, that's the other side of the changelessness of me.
Yes.
Like it's phenomenally, everything is absolutely changeless because it's constantly changing. That's the one thing that will never change about phenomena.
Yes.
It's constantly changing.
Yes, it's right. It's the changeless aspect, which is the creative aspect, the creation arises out of the creative potential, and it's ever fresh. It's like you are at a spring. You never taste the same water twice. It's ever fresh. It's ever fresh. And it's the freshness of the source. It's the freshness of the source, which is the freshness of presence, of consciousness, of beingness.
Yeah, that really helped to bring it together, these two seemingly separate, the changeless and the changeful.
Yes.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you.
It's the meaning of Advaita, non-duality. There is nothing which is not consciousness, it's all consciousness. The silent, still aspect of consciousness, the peace, the love, the freedom, and the world, the creative aspect. There is no dichotomy or discontinuity in reality. So it's always the zero time, the time of eternity. It's always eternity. May be experienced as a sensation. In this moment of eternity. So the sensation is eternity. Appearing as a sensation. But there isn't a personal, separate subject or object. It's the continuity and the eternity of consciousness. Appearing as this perception. Seamlessly. Where does consciousness start and consciousness end and the perception starts? Or there isn't this ends and that starts. And yet, at the mind level, there can be a narrative about starting and ending. The day starts, I go to work at 8 o'clock and I leave at 2. That's at the level of mind. There is some sort of narrative, which is the creative aspect of consciousness, without a me. Without a me means without the sense of lack, without the worry and concern, without the fear, without seeking, unfulfilled desires. So the fulfillment is not a phenomenal fulfillment. It's not the fulfillment of something that I get. So the fulfillment is nominal, non-phenomenal. It's up to nature. It's how reality is. It's ever fulfilled, ever fulfilled. It's not a story I am sharing with you. Like a new model of new philosophy. Okay. Thank you all. Very lovely to be with you. Chris, Olga, Jeff, Rochelle, Malcolm, Mark, Frank, Narayan, and Shiva. Thank you all.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thank you, Magdi.
Maggie.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thanks, everyone.
Stay well, guys.